Hi, I'm Lee Stick. My student number is 221769. For my first cultural diversity assignment, I'll do a video presentation for the first part. Okay, beginning with 3 historical events that changed the lives of Indigenous Australians. First historical event that changed the lives of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders was the Stolen Generation, which had happened over the duration of 80 years. What happened to this stolen generation? Well, the objective of the stolen generation was to breed out the indigenous gene, so the government had decided to remove their children from their families, and their families had nothing to say in the matter, which is why it has been called a stolen generation. The impact this had on the families at the time was quite disastrous. This had continued until present day. This traumatic event had been passed on to further generations and has affected Indigenous Australians until today. The impact it has had on their people is quite devastating and left them with psychological scarring. As a result of this, they have developed mental health issues which include drug and alcohol abuse, suicide, and a loss of identity. It was thought to be a positive thing to try and contaminate their genes with white DNA, to breed out what was considered a bad gene. This has left their people with distrust for white men and also a mystery in their biological timeline. The second event is the Redfern speech, which happened on the 10th of December 1992, and it was spoken by the Prime Minister at the time, Paul Keating. The Australian Prime Minister, which is a Caucasian male, made a speech in Redfern. In the speech, he acknowledged that the European settlers introduced crime, drugs and alcohol, disease, and spoke of the stolen generation. This historical moment had acknowledged the mistreatment of Indigenous Australians and also admitted to the white man being the problem and not the black. The impact of the Aboriginal community was extremely positive and was social justice for their people. This was a significant moment in Australian history because it was one step closer to reconciliation. The third event was quite recent, made by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd on the 13th of February 2008. An official public apology made by the Prime Minister to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders for the corruption of their people. A quote from the apology: "Laws and policies of successive parliament and governments that had inflicted profound grief, suffering, and loss of these, our fellow Australians." The apology was delivered as the first step towards a healing process of this mistreatment in the Australian community. Now, to identify 2 cultural diversity factors. One of the diverse cultural factors is the Indigenous art. Their paintings have been commercialized and only put on canvas in recent times. Before this, they were drawn on rocks, walls, and bark, even their bodies. Before their art was commercialized, it was used for many different things and was quite complex. What their paintings can describe is a type of written language, because they do not have one of their own, so they would pass on information with these artworks and also use it as a map. Another example is dot painting, which was developed to hide secret information from the white man. So consider this when you look at a white mainstream artist version of Indigenous artwork. Another factor that made the Indigenous so unique is their language. Unfortunately, hundreds of dialects have died out. It is said that there was about 300 mainstream languages, and over the past 2 centuries they have diminished down to 145 and still used, but also 110 are expected to be forgotten. The Indigenous language changed from all parts of Australia. Mainstream language would change one's say would further themselves from certain groups, similar to present day, with different terms and phrases, slang varying from state to state. Okay, now two critical issues that could influence the counseling process are the client's trust, safety, and respect. Just like anybody else that would take part in a counseling process, they would expect to be safe, which can be described in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In order to progress, the primal needs must be met to achieve self-actualization. The reason why these factors could be difficult to achieve is because of historical events, mistreatment by white people, and alienation from society. So it is important to let our Indigenous client know that multiculturalism is welcome and give them the understanding of a client-centered approach. Two important reasons for maintaining a respectful relationship is to prevent a relapse in their emotions, behaviors, and previous thoughts. After the rapport has been built, maintenance is important to avoid them going back to their old ways. So keep them enthusiastic, become autonomous, and helping them to become autonomous is our essential goal. The other way to maintain a respectful relationship is to have an inviting environment with information, signs of cultural acceptance such as hanging the Aboriginal flag, and pictures of a well-functioning multicultural community. These examples will ensure a more positive environment for Indigenous clients. Two ways to increase participation of our clients is to encourage self-determination and explain autonomy to our clients, and then help them achieve set goals in the counseling process to help them want a more positive future. And with note-taking, there can be a record of their progress, which will empower them to want self-determination. So culturally inviting environment will make them more comfortable, and also offering an interpreter and other information from different Indigenous Australians. 3 ways to ensure they become self-determined is note-taking, to record progress so there is tangible proof of their accomplishments, ensure a safe environment for the facilitating process, and also offer 3 different strategies such as group work with other Indigenous Australians. I have 3 links for policies, procedures, acts, and legislation. Here they are. The policy, procedures, and the acts and legislation link. Thank you.